Hi, guys, and welcome to SnipBit, the podcast to show that you can be successful in your chosen field, whatever your background or start in life. Today, I'm honoured and delighted to welcome Paul Parker, former professional footballer, manager, and sports television pundit, who's played for a number of clubs, including Fulham, QPR, and Man U. He's earned 19 caps for England and was an instrumental part of the 1990 World Cup team. Paul, thank you so much and welcome to SnipBit.
Thank you, Hayley.
So, one question. Do you think your background and upbringing has been a factor in what you've achieved?
Oh, without a doubt. Everything I had to endure has helped me through strength-wise, mental strength. I think physicality might have come through a little bit as well, but yeah, I mean, I always, when I do talk about things, I do go back to know that I become what I become because of, from what it was at my early life.
And was there any specific moments that affected your life in that way, or is it just a general situation?
I would say it's more general. If anything, it was just more about, I'm just one of them who always believes that if you've got an aspiration, go with it. Don't listen to anybody. Go with it, because it's easy for somebody to say, don't do that because of this. And it's all right for them because they can walk out of the room and carry on their life. You've got to live with that one and make a decision. If you don't go and take it, and all of a sudden it will haunt you for the rest of your life. You've got to go and try it, because at the worst you fail, but then you can carry on knowing you've tried.
And that's so important, isn't it? It's better to try and fail than to never have tried at all.
Oh, without a doubt. And there was if I just go back just to football, I was when it come down to it, when I had an opportunity to go to United, it came at the last minute. I talked to a few clubs, and I was chatting to the manager of the team that I always supported as a kid, which was Tottenham. And me being a London boy, I thought it was easy for me. I was going to go and play for the team I supported. Manchester United come in. I had to go and test the water. I had to go and find out. And the moment I arrived, and when I spoke, my mind was made up. I was going to be this London boy who was going to move 220 odd miles up north to go and play for Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world. And you have to go and do that. I could have, even if I wanted to, maybe turn around and said to Queen's Park Rangers, I'm not leaving, I'm happy here. Things are going well for me. I was captain at the time and lived in that little goldfish bowl of being up there. But I knew I had to jump out of there. Could have gone to Tottenham, stayed in London, been around all friends and family. No, I jumped in a car and went north, and it's the best decision I ever made. But if I hadn't have gone to Manchester United, it could have been what could have been, really. That's mostly what it would have been. I could have been looking at maybe those 5 years I spent at United and seeing what they had won, and end up living my life as a green-eyed monster.
Well, as a Tottenham fan, I have massive pain that you didn't come to us.
Everything was right for me, Hayley, at the time. Terry Venables was the manager. It was absolutely perfect. But United coming in at that time, and it just made sense at that given time.
100%. So clearly, your mindset's played a major part in this. Did you always know you were going to be successful?
No, I don't think anyone really knows. I think you know that you want to be. More so now because it's in your face and you see it on TV, you see it on your phone. What goes with success, you just want that, you want more. But at that given time, no, I was looking at doing something that I love doing. And what anybody says will come out and say after, oh, no, this and no, that. I wanted to play football. It wasn't about money. It was about playing that game, which I'd done in the garden, which I watched, watched at the weekend on a Saturday and a Sunday. There were the two programs on, nothing midweek unless it was a European game. And that's what I wanted to do. My mind was made up and it wasn't going to change. And I advise people to be completely different from what I was and remind them that you can be a professional footballer and be a very well-educated one as well. I was a professional footballer, but I wasn't a very well-educated one. So I virtually grinded down on everything else and just put everything out there to be a footballer.
And in terms of that, was there that one moment where maybe you got signed to your first club that you thought, yeah, I'm on my way now?
I would say that was when I was given my debut at Fulham at 17. I knew then that there was all the other bits before it, even leading up when I was a kid, I was the one who was always missing out because of my size. As much as I was in the frame, I wasn't actually making a picture. I was always on a peripheral because every football when I was growing up in the late 70s and the early 80s, size was a major factor. The England schoolboys team was all about size. So I couldn't, the county team run by school teachers, the FA was about size, so I was always, but it was always, everything was always a fight. And I just kept going and going, even though sometimes I don't know if I should have gone back, but I just turned up. I didn't even knock at the door, I just turned up. So there could have been times where I shouldn't have been there, but they might have felt sorry for me.
But I like that. That's that determination, that will to want to succeed is so important, right?
Oh, without a doubt, it is. And hopefully there's a lot of other kids out there who have got that, because you should never always take what someone says as the truth. It's just an opinion. Size doesn't matter. Any sport you do, in certain ways, it's all about what you are inside. Because you can only run so far, because that controls it. It doesn't matter what work you've done in between. If that doesn't really want to do it, then you're not going to do it. So I played football. I was always up against bigger people, but it didn't bother me. I made it my well, it was a contest. I'm going to say it was a contest between me and them. And the thing about it is, that they would look, and I would see they were smug, and you could see them, the arm movements of like that. And then it kind of maybe incited me to jump that bit higher, to be that little bit stronger for them. If they push me over, to bounce straight up, not look at them being weak or look at them being aggressive. Because I knew if I looked at them being aggressive, there's only so many battles you can win before you lose a war. Mm-hmm. So that was my way. And in certain ways that hasn't gone really. When there's a chance, when it's a no, I think to myself, well, there's a chance somewhere in there with no, it's not a definite, and you keep going.
And I think that's such a positive attitude to have. It's like developing your football brain, but also developing your character at the same time.
Yeah, I suppose, that is me. I always like to go and try things that maybe I'm not equipped to do, to go outside of my comfort zone. Someone says to me, Paul, can you do this? Do you want to get involved in this and do that? Yeah, okay. But the other side of it is that the moment I know that I can't do that, or I lose the interest, I step away, because I don't want to let anybody down. That's the way I've been. And when you're in something, you go in it to the end. But once you've done that bit and you don't think you can achieve what the person's looking for, or you're not good enough for it, or you can't do the job, you've got to be honest to the people around, and you've got to step away. And maybe that's because I've been involved. My life has been about being involved in team sports, and I just don't believe in a team. Always comes first. It's not about an individual. It doesn't matter how big a cog you are. There is smaller cogs around. If the small cogs are not working, the big one isn't a superstar without the small cogs.
And it's a total team sport. So Harry and Sonny wouldn't be as good without all the other players around them as Spurs. That's
absolutely correct. They can only do so much. And when Spurs, which has been infrequent this season, I should say, have looked good, generally it's about those two sprinting forward and everything that goes with it. But there's the bit from behind that pushes those elements forward, helps those elements to get forward, I should say. And that's the difference. And if there's nothing pushing, then they're never going to be the same. So it is a team. You can't, as the saying goes, and the most obvious one is, you can't win a game on your own. As much as the press will highlight it the day after, I'm sorry, there's still 11 players on the pitch. There used to be 2 or 3 on the side. Now there's 9 on the side of the pitch who can come in and do a job as well. So it is a team that wins a football match, a squad, I should say.
So who's been your biggest inspiration in all that you've achieved?
There's been different people at different times, and there's still even people now in what I'm doing now in my life who have made a difference for me to go on doing what I'm doing. But there was people who used to pick me up from, I was when I started playing, I used to go on my own by bus. My parents were both working, so I used to just jump on a bus and go in places. Or what I believe about me is that I would get on the bus, get to where I'm going, and then I'd communicate with people. And all of a sudden I'd find somebody who could drop me off at the bus stop's too far. I can take me to the nearest bus, something on your way home. And then that would work. Oh, where'd you live? Oh, Raynham. Oh, we're just going, so can we just drop you there? And then things move on, and then you find out where people, and you end up being able to organise just a little bit of hard work on your side to maybe get to a pickup point. And that's the way it was, I've done it. Obviously, things are completely different now. The way of life has changed. You wouldn't let your kids go and do that. I mean, I was doing that at 8 years of age, right. 8, 9 years of age, doing that to play football. So it was, and then there was, I would end up with friends who, or even after football, I'd go around and sit round the house and with the parents, and just to chat, and then sit round there. Mostly they'd make me dinner, then they'll bring me home. Maybe I was a bit of a sponger, really, but I just connected with people, and people would have influence. I mean, one of the lads, still my great friend now, his dad, when he virtually turned around and said, my dad saw you more of a son than me.
Oh.
But because I was young, I was little, that he would go out and do stuff with his mates, and I would virtually be staying there because I couldn't be, because they were big lads, and so I'd be there with the parents sitting around. So I become part of that net, they're part of their family in certain ways. And I've done that on a couple of occasions, interacted, with people, and it's all been around my football to help me get lifts and be able to get there. And when I was an apprentice at Fulham, I was to stay with a family, and one of my teammates, one of the apprentices I was with, I used to go and stay at his house in Slough, just because then it was an easier journey, because his dad used to drive into Hounslow every day. So he would drop us off in Hounslow, and we'd jump on the Piccadilly line into Hammersmith, and then walk from Hammersmith to Craven Cottage. That was easier than me being in Raynham, having to jump on the bus to Elm Park and then do 39 stops to Putney Bridge. That's how many it was on the train. So it was just about that. That was just to make things easier for me. So in theory, I virtually left home about the age of 16 to be an apprentice footballer, because I was kind of working, going back and forth. I wasn't consistently coming from Raynham into Fulham.
So it's all about the importance of your connections. Yeah,
it was definitely that. I just communicated well with people, and people seemed to like me, and that helped me. I mean, and that side of it, people helped me, and to go to just to get on, because I think they saw that I didn't take anything for granted. I was a trier. I was somebody who had something to say. I wouldn't just sit back and just let it happen. I made it happen. So I think people like that. When you see somebody, if I saw a young kid now and people turn around and say, "Oh, he's a pest. He's always asking this and he's doing that," I would look at it as a positive, because I know he's there. He's getting right on my nerves. But I'll tell you what, yeah, come on, come in, and I'm going to do, but the one, maybe the most talented one, is sitting there being quiet, and you don't react to them. You have to go and get them, and that's the way things work sometimes. Have I got there all on talent? Maybe not. maybe I got there because I was a pest. I was always in people, and people saw me there, and I was always communicating with people, and that's what happens. You know, there's many a story going around everywhere. People, oh, I could have been, and you know, I could have been if that. Well, don't go around saying you could have been because you are. You know, it didn't happen for you. You are and not be. You never materialised for you. You moved on to something else, and don't sit there telling people your hard luck stories when, in theory, football, people who are out there who are playing at all levels, there's always better players than them, but the difference is majority of them wanted it more. Then you have to want something, and I wanted it. I knew I didn't really have anywhere else to go, and certain people helped me get over the line. And going back to your early question, the main person I would look at who come at a point in my career where it could have changed from when I was at Fulham was the late Ray Hartford, who was my youth team coach at Fulham, and then he was become assistant with the first team. So when Malcolm McDonald gave me my debut, he was kind of involved. I think he had to come in there and be the bit in between, because I don't think Malcolm was sure about me. You know, not his size and maybe the way I was. He didn't, you know, I wasn't that way as maybe what he would have liked. But I think Ray gave him some assurances, and he helped me get over that line. And then the bit after, while I was an apprentice, he turned around and he said to me not to rely on my speed. He goes, because at one time you might not have it and you need a little bit more. Never a true word.
Yeah.
Words, I should say. And then even when I left Fulham, at one point, just at the back end of my time at Fulham, when things were turning sour, the club was on the verge of going under, Ray became manager, which made it even more difficult for our relationship, because even through it, we were friends. I was his son's favourite player. And even when I saw, you know, Ray's wife, Maureen, she would always say, "Blooming, I thought, you know, I've suddenly found myself a little, well, use the words, and because it was never meant in that way." She goes, "I've got a little black boy as my son." She goes, I'd never thought that would happen to me, but the way Ray comes home and talks about you, I think, you know, I see you as my son, because he talks about you so much more than her son, which ironically his name's Paul as well. Mm. So I got very close with Ray and his family. And then when I left and I went to QPR, Ray, we always kept in touch and talked about things. And then it finished up with Ray, with when was it, 94, 95, Ray was assistant manager to Kenny Dalglish at Blackburn Rovers to stop us winning it 3 times on the bounce. Premier League, you know, so and we still always chatted then, and then for him to lose him, it was maybe the first time when I really felt something about somebody who I knew that well. You know, you related to it. So Ray, I would say, over me being a young pro and going on, even becoming an established professional footballer, Ray was always quite integral in what I'd done. He just had an opinion of, and he would come out and say it, even to the point that sometimes even finished training, there was some of us who we were travelling by car. We'd come from Essex, and we'd be driving all the way into Fulham or wherever we trained. We were like nomads. Fulham, we trained anywhere there was green grass, we trained. And it was even training in a place called Ostley near Heathrow, and it was like a park with like a hut, and we was using that. And sometimes Ray, mum lived in South London, so sometimes Ray would jump in the car with us, and we'd drop him off just over, over the bridge on the south side. And so Ray was quite integral in a lot of players in that era. I wish you say I got a picture somewhere, and Ray's there, and all of that youth team that we played in. I think there was like 12, 13 of us. Actually, 8 of us played together in the first team. You know, we all was for 2 years cleaning boots, cleaning stands, cleaning toilets, cleaning everything, and we all played in the first team together. So that's one thing I look at, and I'm quite proud of. Is you say we don't get mentioned in the same light as the class of '92, but yeah. I put that down to media in the 80s rather than what's going on now.
100%. Things have changed a lot since then, haven't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of good players, and a lot of players come through together through that. But it wasn't out there to be pumped out there at that time. But things change. Media is a big fashionable thing now.
And I'd like to say, I think not pest, but passion and persistence are better P's for you.
Yeah, see, and that boils down that I didn't use those words. I didn't really do enough at school, really, to bring those words out. So, yeah, you are right. I like that's a bit. I'm going to use that from now on. I wish I'd have found those words many years ago.
Yeah.
But if it did come out of my mouth many years ago, people wonder, where did you get that from? Where have you been?
Oh, well, that's good for me. I'm glad I've been able to add some value there.
I remember that.
So if you were stood in front of your teenage self now, what advice would you give yourself and why?
The one thing which I would say 100 times out of 100 is education. You can do both. And that's the one thing. I wasn't being pushed. My parents weren't happy about me being a footballer in a sense. They didn't turn around and say, we don't want you. But I could see there wasn't, but I wasn't being thrown into anything to say, you've got to do that. As some parents are, you've got, homework comes, I would do it. I wouldn't have someone looking over my shoulder every now and again. I put that virtually, I only did that when it was needed, which is from when I left. And I left in the morning, maybe about 8 o'clock. And by the time I got home, maybe 4:30, that was the only time. So the point is that I look at it now, and once after I went through that bit after I stopped playing and then suddenly come back into the real world and put all that aside, all the bitterness and everything that goes with it, I suddenly realised that I'd let myself down on that side of it because it was needed. It was needed, really. That little bit of background, something to dig deep in and find and understand, that learning process. Because as well is, it's like putting cones down sometimes. Why are you putting a cone down? Just to run around. It's a guideline. It doesn't make you a great coach, but it's a guideline for you then to work from. And that's the hard bit, is there. And I didn't have that bit in behind me then to go on to the next bit. So I was always having to, when I was listening to things and being around people, having to really listen to really understand where they're going. And I asked a lot of questions I wanted to know because I didn't know it. Where they were just delivering it, and all the people they're not the greatest or anything, but a great background, which education does. It opens you up to absorb things more. I didn't really have that.
So more of the learning process.
Yeah, without a doubt. So when I go anywhere and when I'm speaking and that kind of what you just said there, Hayley, that kind of comes up, and I go on like a passionate rant. I don't like that word. Passionate rant, kind of saying to everyone, it's important what you know about school. And they said, I'm not being a parent, I'm not preaching to you, but I'm just saying, use it. I'm telling you this because of my experiences after I come away from what I love, from what I loved most was playing football, because I thought I was going to do that for the rest of my life. When I say that to people look at me, no, you're really? But we didn't know. We didn't have what people have got now, people telling you. Everyone wants to tell you things now. Everyone thinks they know better. Everyone's trying to tell you things all the time. It wasn't about them because we didn't really want to say to. It wasn't that kind of way. I don't think life was that way, where someone would come in and help you that way, in a sense to tell you this. Footballers now have a lot of help from people, a lot of it bad, but there's always the ones that come out, the ones who are saying the right things to you. People outside family, and there is some families that, in theory, are not good to have to help you. They're better off just being family rather than people who want to run your life for you because of what you're involved in. But I never, didn't have that. It wasn't around at that time. And I think there's a lot of players from my era who maybe come and say things quite similar. You have to go looking for it. There was then the PFA were active, but now the PFA are very proactive. Yeah. And that's the difference. That's the big difference now and the way they are. And it wasn't their fault. This is what life was then, proactive. Being proactive is part and parcel of surviving now. In everything you do. If you're proactive, it gives you a better chance of survival, being that step in front of something. And life wasn't like that at that given time.
That makes sense. I think it's changed a lot, but do you think it's because of the money in the game, or do you think that they've learned the lessons of the past?
I think that's yes to both, but yes, lessons in the past, but the money's made a massive amount of difference, good, bad, and indifferent on that side of it. The bad side of it is there's so many people involved in football now who are not football people, and now taking fortunes away from it, and they're not even really interested. They're just coming in off the back of it because it's making money, which is if anything, people get involved. People go out and buy shares in companies because they can make money. Doesn't mean they got an interest in the company. So in a way, people get involved. People who run football clubs now, their businesses, they're not interested in how the team's doing, and they're interested in what they're going to get in return. What can they take from maybe that business and then pull it back into their business, the one that got them to where they are, to go and get involved in that football club. And that's what it's about now. Clubs are buying and selling off the back of what they're going to get rather than what they have got. And that's at top level, and that's the way things are. So and a lot of that has more come to light because of what's going on in the world at the moment. A lot of that suddenly comes out when things go bad, universally, all of a sudden things have to come out. People a lot of it ain't being nasty. Suddenly figures come out because people get a little bit desperate. So all of a sudden some bad things have come out about professional football. And the bad thing that comes out of it, and the things that come out bad are generally about the Premier League, because that's where all the money is. The real football, the people's football, which are the Championship and below, that side of it is the bit that's really struggled. Is really struggling and needs help. But the people with it, the money, don't really want to give it away and help, which is the foundation of football, which is below the Premier League. The Premier League can't survive football-wise, without the Football League. It can't do it. People say, of course they can, and got a load of money. Well, I think you'll find that there's more people who support Football League sides than what there is Premier League sides. Everybody watches Premier League. Everybody listens to it. Everybody reads the stories about it. It doesn't mean they support it and they're actually 100% in love with it, because there's an attraction on the field. It's not really what's written on the can.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it has changed a lot, because people who own football clubs now, it's business decisions as opposed to the love of the game or the love of the team. So Paul, if I was to ask you, what would you like your legacy to be in football and beyond?
Oh, that's a question. I would say people relate to me as what I was as a player, and it's getting harder and harder because I'm getting older and older, so you get more and more forgotten. Especially now when people come and say, "Oh yeah, I know all about you. My granddad told me." It's tough on the ears, absolutely murder on the heart.
Paul, I have to say, one of my besties, Jo, she was more than excited because she remembered you at QPR. So it's not all grands and granddads. You're okay.
But I would say about me is just that willingness not to give up.
Yeah.
Don't let what people might see as a defect affect you. You believe in yourself and what you can do, and you look at your strengths, because strengths are important, personal strengths. And if people look at negatives, look at the negative side of you, and then those people aren't worth knowing. But you've got to remember what your strengths are. For everybody's weakness, you've got a strength. And yes, I had strengths that helped me get over the line, but that's what life's about anyway. There's not a 100% perfect person. There is people who have got different issues, problems and whatever, but they've got a strength which is usable, which will help them get through. And I just believe you have to believe, and what people say is a negative, you actually got to go out and make everything you got, your strengths, a positive. And I believe that's what I've done.
So in essence, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's exactly exactly right. And I hit so many walls so many times when I was growing up as a kid, and every aspect it was tough, really tough out there. Every one of my era being black and that, it was tough, but you got on with it. We didn't moan about it. We got on with it. We knew. My mum's always turned around and said that when she come to the UK, and she said she just wanted to be respected at some point, but she'd always give respect because she's in another person's country. She never expected, she didn't expect anything back. She believed she had to work for it to earn the right, to earn the respect, because she was willing to work. So when she was getting abused, she never reacted to it. And she just felt that made her stronger because of that, because she learned to deal with it. And I think that she instilled that in all four of us, the four kids, that we're all very much that same, in that same mode of things. We're nowhere near what it is today, which I think today it's gone mad. It's gone mad. It's been coerced, and what's going on today, in my opinion, and black people of my era are all very much the same in the way we are. We give respect. We've earned respect, and yes, there is going to be people who are not going to like you. Colour of the skin is not the only reason why people don't like you. So and you deal with it that way. Things improve over decades. They improve over different centuries. Things get better, but hate is never ever going to go away. It can be improved, but it's never going to go away. So I got through a really tough stage where it was everywhere, to be perfectly honest. But I got through it because I was mentally strong, and I had a lot of good friends, school friends, which I'm still friends with now. It's ridiculous. I got all the people I associate with are people who I've met outside of football, or people who I went to school with or grew up with through football teams from when I was a kid. And that's the way it's been. Got a lot of friends who I played football with and against, but when I see them around at different events or when I'm working at games, we become friends, we talk. But it's quite funny, really, because you never ask for telephone numbers. You just enjoy that moment, and then while you're working, and then you step away. You never lose that. And I think in any profession it must be like that as well. In that sense, you've done that, but that bit about telephone numbers, we must meet up. No, we won't bother that, because we know that we're not going to make that call.
But it's quite unusual, isn't it, to still have those great relationships from your childhood?
No, it's absolutely right. It's the kind of thing that you take for granted. I took it for granted for a little while. When I went up to Manchester initially in those few years, suddenly put that side to bed and was just loving that bit, being up there in Manchester, the city. It was like buzzing. It was a new thing, completely new. And then all of a sudden you speak to somebody, then you get told a few home truths, and it hurts. But then it's about how you deal with it after. It's like criticism. When people come out and say, "Oh, I got so and so got criticised because of this and that," and they come out and said, "But I don't care. I dealt with it. It doesn't bother me." You're not human if criticism doesn't bother you. Not human at all. You haven't got. There's nothing there if criticism doesn't hurt you. But it's about how you deal with it. Do you want to go out and prove a point? Go and shove it straight back, maybe where the sun don't shine, or you're going to sulk and just think you can get through it sulking. They're going to come put their arm around you and say, "Don't worry." If you're one of them who wants to do that, not interested. You've got to go out and prove people wrong, and that's my way of looking at things, is proving you got to go out and do that and get on with it. And so when that was said to me, it hurt me, and even that, it's still certain, but it does stick in my head. But it made me suddenly realise, and I actually from there went and saw some of my friends, the good one, kind of asked them the question, did I change when I went to Manchester United? And you could see them, and they kind of went like that. Why? What? And then you start asking questions. What was you like? And kind of when you're asking that question, you're kind of opening your mouth, but you don't really want to say it. So it's not coming out properly. It's coming out, yeah, but I don't really want to say it because I don't really want the answer.
Yeah.
And and if things have hurt me over my time, what come out of some of those people, it seriously hurt me. But it made me realise, and still friends now. Maybe if I didn't go and ask those questions, or they weren't telling me the truth, then maybe that relationship could be gone. And when you lose friendship, you can lose friendship with school friends because time and distance and life changes happen. But when you've been friends and all of a sudden you lose it because one or the other loses their way, then it's very difficult to go back and be right again, because all those years have passed you by.
So, Paul, just to finalise, where can we find you now? What are you up to?
So I what do you mean? Where can you find me on the map?
No, in terms of what are you doing for yourself? Are you on social media? Can people follow you?
Yeah, I'm on social media. I'm on it. I'm on maybe LinkedIn is what I'm on a lot. I see that one. That one's got kind of people that are up there above what I ever thought I would, nowhere near what I am, but it's just what I'm doing. It kind of works in that LinkedIn way. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, but I'm not really one of them beavering, there's more uses for a phone. Sometimes I wish I just had a Nokia, just send SMSs. But it's in what I do, you need it. I don't get in. So I do media work. So I do co-commentaries for BBC, a lot of them predominantly BBC and TalkSport. So people say you talk rubbish for 90 minutes about a game of football. Someone else's rubbish is somebody else thinks it's all right. It's all right because football is opinionated in most things. People's got their own idea of everything that's good or bad. But that's generally what I do on that side. On the football side, I write a regular blog for Yahoo Eurosport. I am involved with a sports business network company, Horses, called we're involved with Horses. We bought a lot of horses and we use that to get people to invest in. It's a 2-year investment, but it's not like what was going on before, where people would like lose their marriages and things over it. People put their life into it. It's just a business to network for them to go. It's an events orientated, which has been a tough gig in the current climate, but it's been doing okay because it's all about meeting different people, but getting to events and that's what we're aiming towards. So I'm doing that as well. So that gets me onto the social media. Then there's obviously that social media platform where people don't allow you to have an opinion. They're right. And then the moment you throw something back, and it gets quite aggressive, and I always like say to my boys, or it could be even my daughter, I say, the moment somebody wants to get aggressive, swear, that's the time you got to walk away, because they haven't got in them to have that kind of conversation, that anything like that. They want to argue, they want to get aggressive, and you think, no, you need to stay away. So I go on there. I never put anything out. It goes out via my blogs or bits people put on, and then things come in, and you look at 2 or 3 and you kind of go, not even going to bother. Don't really want to know. I've done my bit. I've stayed, I'm away from it. So that's as much as I go really on that media side. But going back to CCR, it's quite in that sense of, I saw when I was looking what you sent me through the people you've done, and you've got Martin the Fire. So you've done Martin. So Martin he struggles not to smile, but Martin has got involved with CCI. He's come on, got involved. So where you get involved in, like me, I've got, so I'm like the ambassador for it. So I've got a horse which runs under something which was said about me as a player. So it's got that name. So Martin will get one at some point very soon, and it's going to be called his obvious name. It's going to be Chariots, or it's going to be Chariots of Fire.
Yeah.
We've got Jonathan Davis who's involved, Sally Gunnell's involved as well. So we're getting.
She's been on the podcast too.
Yeah. So we trying to get all different people from all different sports. So I'm even want to speak to Daly about just all different sports, and there's nothing on your note. And all they do is that we get events, and people might suddenly go to, say, a rugby league game, or we get them to a rugby union game, and we just have someone there, because there's people of my era, maybe below or slightly, who love to go and see these people and chat to them. So that's what it's about. It's just getting people just together, and those people then might just bounce off of each other. But it's a different kind of network thing, one that I feel quite happy to be involved in something, because we've got stables down in Hampshire. And the one thing about me, my life has been about being outside in rain, snow, sun.
Yeah.
I can't believe how cold it's been. I only used to wear short sleeve shirts. I can't believe I used to do that cold. But I love being in the open air, so it suits me. Someone, asked me to sit in an office and work. I'd do it for a while, but it wouldn't be me. That office environment wouldn't be me. But that's me. That's a lot of it, what I do. But on the co-commentating side, there's been times when, I've gone down to the side of the pitch, and I've looked to the pitch, and I suddenly just looked, and I thought to myself, how have I managed to run around something like this? How did I manage it? I look at it, and when people come up and say to you, I bet you wish you're playing, and you're kind of going, no, couldn't get myself prepared to go and do that. You just wouldn't move, and then you'd end up like one of those players on pub football, one's on a stick. I'd be one of them, so I wouldn't have to move off the spot.
Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being part of SnipBit.
No worries. Thank you very much.